Welcome to the weekly outlook in the DeFi Dojo. I am Groot, aka Rob. It is March 15th. It's been a while since I've done a weekly outlook, and that's because the markets have been stagnant, sideways, boring, whichever adjective you want to use. But we might have some things happening now that are worth looking at, and I wanted to just point out all the levels for all of the majors at least to give you an idea of just what to look for and where things could continue in one direction or bounce and go back the other way. Starting with Bitcoin, this thing has been sideways since February 2nd. We're just now getting retests of the weekly 8 EMA, and that is a big spot, right? And you can clearly see if we zoom in here that is the current resistance. It did not close this week above the weekly 8 EMA. You can see the last time it did, it followed by a huge rejection. So just because it doesn't mean anything other than like, okay, something's going to happen soon. And sometimes that means it's going to go up. Sometimes that means it's going to plummet. So usually when we start testing that, it wants to make a move. And so we're 3 weeks in now going on, and that means something is going to happen fairly soon, I think. Now, whether that means going up and testing 77 or just completely nuking from here and going down to 56, I can't call that. What I do know is that it's a bear market, right? And we called the top not too long ago, and the bear market so far has been pretty horrendous as far as how fast we have come down. But we did hit the second target of 3 in the bull market targets, and that was the end of the cycle. If we zoom out even further, you can see that there was a trend line here, right, for the bull market cycle that clearly broke. We pointed that out a long time ago, and we just basically retested it and then fell down. Typically, the bear market's going to be much longer than this. So as far as cycle timing goes, I think we're probably going to see another low, and it'll likely, I mean, at minimum, I think we'll see 56,738 here. I don't think this is the bottom. However, if we go back to the moon chart, which a lot of you have been following me for a while, know what this is. I don't really subscribe to it strictly, but I like using it because it works, right? So basically, every time we've had the orange moon, which is the last lunar eclipse of the season, it's marked very close to the bottom of every cycle bottom so far. And we just had it. It just happened. Now, there's also this trend line that shoots all the way back from 2018 through today, and that also is holding as current support. I personally still think this is going to go lower, only because it hasn't been a very long bear market, but perhaps this is the bottom. I don't know. Maybe because we didn't have an extreme high from the previous high, that maybe the bottom is shorter and they're going to accumulate it more. Maybe ETF inflows are going to influence this in a different way that we aren't expecting yet. Anything's possible. Right now Bitcoin's about 50% off, maybe a little less, 40% off from its all-time high. Typically we see something like 50 to 70. So 50 would kind of line up a little better with where this fib is. And let's just kind of measure that, right? It's probably more than 50%, but if we just went to that fib, it's like 55 to that 56.7 mark. That's probably the first place I would consider buying a little bit of Bitcoin personally, but I do still think that it's possible we go as low as 34. I guess depending on the overall market and what we're doing. Now, there is a development with the Nasdaq and the S&P. And as you know, like if the S&P and the Nasdaq aren't doing really well, typically Bitcoin and crypto aren't doing really well either. It's really rare to see them decouple for any real length of time where crypto is just going crazy and the stock market's falling. That hardly ever happens. So if we look at the dollar first, you can see we broke our minor downtrend that I was looking for after bouncing off the 382 and reclaiming this blue all-time trend line. And if you zoom out, this trend line goes back all the way to 2008. So we're on 18 years now. So I fully expected that to hold, and so far it has. And now it looks like we're heading back up. And so when the dollar's rising, risk and growth assets typically have problems. And so that's what we're kind of seeing already in the S&P and in the Nasdaq. We've broken this trend line that I've been watching. Like, so this trend line comes all the way back from the 2021 in December peak through the 2024 peak before the April crash, and now we're back below it. So I think that this could continue further down. And as you can see, our EMAs are getting very close to crossing bearish here. We're getting a bounce off of the 1.272. If that fails, then our profit taking zone on this is usually over, according to his history and what I've seen in the past. So the next level down would be 64.43 for the S&P. Same thing with the Nasdaq. It's broken its trend line that I've been watching hold for several weeks now. And now we're just kind of bouncing off that 1.272 again. As you can see, these EMAs are already bearish, right? So tech's having a little bit of a harder time than the broader market. And we could maybe get a retest up to here, or the EMAs. We'll have to see what happens if we retest up here. If it wants to close back up over them and start heading back up here, then I'll take that trade. If it wants to reject, then I'll take the trade back down and try to aim for 23.6. If 23.6 breaks and fails, is a large gap down here, and that wouldn't be pretty. So these kind of have to hold, or we're going to be in for an extended bear market. And so that's kind of what I wanted to point out to you is these levels for the Nasdaq. I'm going to be watching a lot more closely than anything else. I muted myself. Can you guys hear me? Really? Okay. I'm not sure what that guy's talking about. All right. So back to what I was saying. Um, so these levels are what I want to watch for pretty much everything. I'm going to go with the Nasdaq over the S&P on this because that's where the risk is. There's more risk in the Nasdaq than the S&P, and the S&P is kind of more on the value side lately, even though there's still a lot of the same things in both. But if this fails, then I'd like to try to take a short down to here. And ultimately, I think that we could see as low as this red line here eventually this year. So, and then we'll see what happens from there. I don't know what kind of how bad this can get. We're yet to see how bad inflation is going to keep rising and what the Fed's going to do with rate cuts. Right now, it's not looking too good for another rate cut. And we got war. You know, we got all these bad catalysts coming in, and it kind of not hearing a lot about anything really good lately. So but again, the news lies to you, and that's why I rely on these charts. So we're going to be watching the 24,247 level this week on the Nasdaq. We're going to be watching the 65.89 mark on the S&P. And if we go look at Bitcoin, I'm going to be watching the pivot. So if you turn your pivots on the weekly chart, I'm going to be watching this 64 even, let's call it 64K, and 77K. That's the range we're in. And so if we break above that range, then we can try long. If we break below this range, we can try short down to 56.7. Other than that, we're still just in a range, right? You can't call it. If you want to try off of the 8 EMA for the third time now, you can, but just know that the 77 mark is your stop. ETH also testing the weekly 8 EMA now 3 weeks in a row. 2069 seems to be oscillated around. So if we do start rejecting this, before I would consider a short, I would want to see it clear down below 2K again, to try to take it down underneath 1700. If this rejects, I still think we're probably going down into this area under 1700 at the bare minimum, and that's because we have this really nice looking triangle going on here. And if you remember, I was kind of doing the same thing with Chainlink, and I'll show you that as well, and that failed. And so that didn't look too good. Let's go look at it because it's kind of a similar chart. Yeah, so its triangle failed, and now we're just chilling underneath it. So I tried link long from here, and then it just didn't work out. I had to close at a small loss, and since then it's been down below this triangle. And so until it can at least reclaim it, I'm risk off on this. As much as I like it, I can't hold on to something where its chart looks like this. So if ETH does the same thing, then that means it would be going below its triangle, right? And so if that happens, that wouldn't be good, right? So that could mean, let's go back up to it. Where are you? There you are. So that would mean, 1300 ETH, and maybe that's what we get. Maybe this range is what we get, and we're gonna have to like bring this down here, and it's just some sort of straight channel until it can break out of it, and we'll see. It's not looking great, honestly. USDT did exactly what I thought it would do. Nice Wyckoff accumulation here up into the greed and FOMO zone. Currently testing the 8 EMA as well. And so if this does go into an extended bear market like it usually does, then I expect USDT dominance to come clear up here at some point. And then that would mean Bitcoin is going to go well down to my bear market target around 34 to 44K. And that's where I would love to be accumulating Bitcoin again. So we'll see how this all plays out. I don't know if the moon's going to do it this time. I'm not going to buy based on this. I just think it's fascinating. I will sell based on this though, because these ones here typically have marked the tops. So if you want a copy of this, just ask for it and I'll shoot it over to you. There's also days from cycle top to next cycle top that you can count, and typically it's 1400 or 1200. And then there's days from the bear market low to the market top, and it's typically around 750 to 850, right? So if we had to go with bear market low to market top, or days from cycle top to next cycle top, let's just say it's 14 to 1200, then that means we're not looking at another cycle top until roughly like way out here. I gotta go farther. I got more moons out here that I've marked, but let's go with. So there's 1200 near that moon there, and then 1400 is like way out here. So it looks like that might start throwing this off a little bit. So like I said, it's not something I want to go by strictly. I'm gonna count on the fibs, and I'm gonna count on cycle timing, and I'm gonna count on the 821 EMAs and divergences to give me a better picture. It's just if this lines up with all of those other things at the same time, then I can have a high degree of confidence that I'm buying in a good place. And so right now I don't really feel that. I do still think that we'll head lower. If anything, we could probably hang out in this range for 6 months to a year at minimum, because of how long it stayed in this range when it was on its way up. So this is going to be a sticky spot and a hard place to trade short term, just because of how choppy this is in this area. And I wouldn't really want to play with it unless it broke above 77 or below 56, because then you can see things move nicely down here underneath it, and things move really nicely up here above it. So when you're in here, it doesn't move very well. Let's look at the ETH Bitcoin chart just for fun, even though there's not much to say. It is definitely still bearish. There's another downtrend I'm watching now. So if this does end up breaking the yellow one, then maybe I'll try ETH long up to the red one just for a trade. Looking at total crypto market cap, it's pretty much the same thing. We got the 8 EMA rejecting 3 times, and so far we're not getting over it. So I kind of expect a little bit of the same unless it proves otherwise. I really like Tesla short here soon, and the reason being is it's just crossed its EMA's bearish here and retested last week. We'll see how it opens, but if it opens up underneath my red line here, or this weekly pivot, or starts to fall below 387.60, then I really kind of want to take a short, because look how fast price moves, this giant bar. So I would kind of expect a giant red bar back down to 350. So that's where I would want to try to take it. One of my favorite longer term plays that I'm going to be adding shortly is Melly. And you can see this all-time trend line kind of thing we got going on, and it's a growing company out of Germany, I think. But I'm waiting to see 1500 here, because that's where the trend line meets. That's where the 382 is. And so if I see 1500, 1510 on Melly anytime soon, I'm probably going to be scooping up quite a bit of it. I really like this company. It's kind of one of those hold them for a long time and you'll do well companies. Planet Labs is another one I like long term. Excuse me. Still waiting on this to come up and hit the 1.618 so I can sell half. and then just kind of have the rest to hold for life. But it's a growing AI company, and it deals with imaging planet from space and stuff. So a lot of other companies use their data. Other than that, just the stuff that I've been posting in the long-term channel, I'm holding on to. I think they're decent values where they are, but that doesn't mean we can't continue to see systematic risk affect everything. You know, if the whole market's coming down, then things that even look like value right now will likely go lower. And but those are things that I'm willing to hold on to, even if that happens. I'm not going to be holding things for long periods of time that have an insane amount of risk, or companies that have a whole lot of debt. That's just not a smart play. Could be worth grabbing when we start finding bottoms for sure. But right now, I don't see any bottoms. I see us ranging in an area that could break either way at the moment. But overall, we are bearish across the board. And I think that the dollar's probably going to head up to 102.37 at some point, and that would increase the problems that we're seeing in the market at the moment. Okay. If we have any chart requests or questions, please feel free to ask. I love answering questions specifically. Let's look at hype. We want to see hype. All right, so I did attempt to try the weekly on that, but that's not going to work. Okay, so it broke. Well, first, I think there was a 0.5 here we were watching. It looks like it broke it. It did. Okay, so we broke the downtrend, and I guess we would call it there because that's the retest. So we broke the downtrend, retested it, and we're heading back up. So the first take profit area would be in the golden pocket. And so I can easily see that heading up here in this zone. And it would likely reject at some point on one of those lines pretty heavily. And then what you'd want to see is another move back into the yellow area between 39.50 and 43.60 and have it hold support in there. And once you see that the second time, then this thing can go break through the blue and go make new all-time highs. But it's a little early to be calling new all-time highs at the moment, although it very well could. I don't see any bearish divergence. I don't really see anything wrong with this chart. It's definitely bullish for sure. One of the few things in crypto that is team. Is that a crypto? Is this like, is this a new token? Yeah, this one? Oh, okay. That doesn't look very good at all. Am I on the right one? Is this it? Okay. Yeah, this is definitely bearish. I wouldn't touch it personally. If you have some sort of crypto fundamental thing that you like about it, then cool. It could be something great. I don't know anything about it on a fundamental level. There's really that's bearish. There's no bullish divergence going on here. Yeah, that's definitely bearish and short for sure. Hey Groot, do you look at the ETH Bitcoin chart purely to see when to long ETH, or do you pair trade it? Bitcoin long, ETH short? No, I mainly look at it to know if it's worth looking at altcoins. So like notice I didn't look at a single altcoin tonight, and it's because the ETH Bitcoin chart's bearish. If the ETH Bitcoin chart becomes bullish, then it's like, okay, I want to go start looking at altcoins and see what their charts look like. But just kind of getting a broad picture of the altcoin market, that's ETH Bitcoin, right? If I'm going to buy crypto and the ETH Bitcoin chart is bearish, then the only crypto I want to buy is Bitcoin, right? If it's bullish, then I'm not going to look at Bitcoin, and I'm going to go try to find some better looking altcoin charts to potentially trade long. Yeah, no problem. Okay. Any other questions? I love questions like that. That's great. You can keep those coming. Any other chart requests, questions, advice? You know, you guys know a lot more about fundamentals than I do. So if you notice any gems that you want me to look at that are low market cap, even in the stock market, let me know. I'll be happy to look at them. I'm always looking for new things, but the market has been tough over the last 6 months. So don't kick yourself if you're not doing well. I've been getting chopped up too. Long term always wins. And then when short-term trading season comes again, we'll be having fun. But until then, we just kind of have to hunker down, you know? All right, well, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like this kind of content, please like and subscribe below. And if you're interested in automating your trading, I have trading bots that you can use that trade the market for you. And I do one-on-one sessions to help teach you how to draw charts like this so that you can make better investment decisions on your own. Have a great week, everyone, and let's see if we can get something to break out one way or the other. All right, bye.